Hey, Miss Major, how you doing?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good too. Welcome back to our third session of our Impact Cycle coaching, the improved session. Would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself for this session?
Sure. So I'm Kelly Major. I work at Madison County Middle School as a seventh grade social studies teacher, and this is my 10th year teaching.
All right, so for our first criteria for the improved session, we're going to look at if you were able to implement Nearpod successfully in class. So we're going to look at several video clips of you implementing it on your video recording, and then we can discuss it a little bit afterwards.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Major. All right, so we just got a glimpse of observing you video in your class and reflecting over it. Would you like to go over each of these kind of still frames and talk about what you saw in your reflection?
Sure. So you see the picture that says intro. So that is me introducing Nearpod to the students and explaining what Nearpod was and getting them to get their computers out and put the PIN code in to get onto the Nearpod. And then the middle image, the modeling, I was showing them how to or what kinds of responses I was looking for when it was the PIN board activity. And then in the third one, we were discussing the kinds of responses that the students gave from their PIN board. So
yeah, as we reflected over the video, yeah, these were definitely really good parts of the lesson that the kids were super engaged and you can clearly see that from an observational standpoint. So yeah, that was a really good session. All right, for our second criteria in the improved coaching session, we're going to look at whether data is gathered by the teacher in class and by viewing your class video on student progress towards your goal. So we're going to look at your collected data. All right, would you like to go over what you saw in class?
Well, the first bit of participation that the kids got to do was they were asked a poll question about apartheid, and it was just a simple, how much do you know about apartheid? And the answers were like a lot, a little, or none at all. And if you can look at that circle graph on the screen, a lot of them said that they knew very little, but they all answered the question. So that's 100% participation. And
Perfect.
then later on in the lesson, there were like a couple slides that we actually read them out loud as a class. And then they answered 3 quiz questions right after that. And every single one of them answered the questions. And you can see the results of those quiz questions right there on the screen. So they actually did really good, especially like number 3. Every single one of them got that question right. So
yeah, you definitely using the different applications we talked about in the second video, the modeling. The kids, and this one right here shows every kid participating for each question, and you definitely met your 80% as far as participation throughout the lesson. So that's awesome. And we only had one, just this little one right here. We would have had we could have went ahead and set it at 90, but we were striving for 100 anyway. And it looks like we got pretty close as far as participation.
Oh yeah.
regardless. So that's really awesome. It looks like they had a lot of fun with it and did a really good job. So.
Yeah, I was quite happy with it, definitely.
All right, for our third criteria, data is gathered by teacher in class and by viewing the video on teacher's implementation of the practice. And we're going to kind of go back over our checklist from the last video session and look at how you did and if that checklist helped you out
Mhm.
and if that was able to allow you to really truly um, implement every aspect of Nearpod in your lesson and everything you kind of wanted to get out of it. So, all right. So the first couple of things that we had went over in the last video is the teacher has created a Nearpod account through school, which we had already had one,
Mhm.
which was wonderful. The school has provided that through our LMS system, so that's awesome. The teacher has created a Nearpod lesson to implement in class. Me and you got to do that in the last coaching video.
Yes.
We got to make six slides and really build a pretty good engaging lesson that the kids could utilize. Teacher has complete understanding of Nearpod and how to show students how to use it. I know after we got to model it together, we got to build the lesson together. And then we got to talk a little bit afterwards and go through it a little more. And I know you were super excited and comfortable and ready to go with that. So that's awesome. Teacher spends 5 minutes introducing Nearpod and how to use it. I know in the video, we've already kind of seen when we reflected over it that you definitely spent time introducing it and modeling it to the kids and showing them how to use it. And probably a little more than 5 minutes, just kind of throughout the lesson. So that was really good. All right, teacher models how to use the different applications Nearpod incorporates so the students understand their expectations. So how do you feel about that one?
Yeah, so the pin, well, I mean, we had different, we had the poll, we had the pin board, and then there was a quiz. So each time a new one of those activities came up, I had to talk to them about it, show them how to do it. And especially when it came to the pin board, I did have expectations of what they were writing. Because there is a way that you can actually respond with a picture, but I told them they couldn't use just a picture. They had to have words.
Yeah.
I wanted more than a one-word answer. So I definitely, took the time to tell them what I wanted before just letting them go.
Yeah, I know I've done in some of my Nearpod lessons, I've done the same thing. I'm like, you need to respond with a some sort of statement. And I'm like, then once you post a statement, then if you want to include pictures or more content, you're more than willing to do that or whatever. Because they like once they get going, it's hard to get them to stop, which is wonderful. That's kind of one of the benefits of using it. So yeah, it's really cool. All right, for the next item, teacher monitors student responses and provides feedback based on their responses. So how do you think that went in class?
That part was good. Like I said, with the pin board, once they were, there's a, what do you want to call it? A teacher option where you can like view their responses before you let the kids see it, and
Yeah.
I definitely had that turned on.
Yeah.
And I chose like the best responses that I would see to put them up on the board, and I would tell the kids that it's not that the other responses were bad, these were just the best ones I had seen. And then sometimes there were multiple of the same response, they said the same, multiple people said the same thing, so I would only put like one or two of those up there. But I would also tell the kids that their answers were, if I would go talk to them personally and say like, your answer, that was a great answer, but it was very similar to so-and-so's. So that's why I didn't put yours up there over, but yeah. It was really interesting to see all the responses.
Yeah, it's really, that's what's good about it again is while they're uploading or adding their messages or whatever, you can kind of flow around and kind of help them and see what they're putting up on the board and stuff. So that's kind of cool. And yeah, you can just kind of address and be like, there's a lot of people that mention this. So, I just kind of picked one of the group to show everyone. And I love the feature where you can share it and like kind of make everybody see a good answer.
Mhm.
And they can't do anything while you're doing that. They have to stop and look at it, or at least recognize that it's there, and they can't be messing around doing anything else that takes over their screen and shows them a proper,
Yes.
proper and correct answer. That's really cool and stuff. So, all right. The next item, teacher monitors student engagement using observational data and student responses recorded in the Nearpod lesson.
Yeah. So as they were working, I was walking around the room, especially during
Mhm.
those times when it was their turn um, to be engaged in the lesson,
Mhm.
and so I was walking around and just making sure that they were responding, that they didn't have any questions, and I could see before I even pulled the data, I could see that they were all
Yeah.
participating.
Yeah, you could see that in the video too. When we went back over and reflected over it, you can, you see you bouncing around, monitoring, checking, and
Mhm.
giving on the spot feedback, which is always good for kids. It keeps them from getting off task, and so between using the technology and kind of moving around, both of those things together are really good tools to keep kids learning and engaged. All right, our last item, the teacher reflects on the lesson to determine the effectiveness of using Nearpod as a new technology. I know we just kind of talked about all of the data that you collected through Nearpod, the responses. You got, that's a good technology because it shows you that everybody was participating and everybody was engaged, um, and you could, even in the video, you could see everybody was focused and you know reading and participating, and you can stop and start things and keep everybody going and bring them together as a whole group, or separate them individually and let them really be creative with their thoughts. So
Yeah, it's something that I will continue to use now that I know how to use it.
mhm,
Um, I really enjoyed it. So that's definitely something that will be embedded now into more of my lessons.
that's awesome. All right. For criteria four, this is me as your coach and you as the teacher meet to confirm direction and monitor progress. So I'm going to kind of go over a few things that I saw in the video reflection. You already kind of talked about a few of the things that you recognized, and we went through the checklist. For this one, these are a few, of the things I kind of saw, in the video. I listed it as continuation because, we've discussed that you would be interested in introducing more technologies that could possibly help your students increase their engagement. Since Nearpod was so successful, that was nice. And that kind of continues to the bottom where I wrote improve right there. Students showed improvement in engagement using Nearpod. And that was evident throughout the entire video process, which you handled really well and did an excellent job throughout that entire thing. Top right is vision. You wanted to continue to use and learn the applications that Nearpod offers. I know we put together our 6-slide lessons, and then we kind of adapted it a little bit, and you added a few more things, and then you
Mhm.
introduced the lesson. But getting to try all of the applications that it has available, and mix and match, and there's so many cool possibilities basically to use that could keep the kids interested and not doing the same repetitive thing, I guess. But
Mhm.
lots of cool things that you can do with that, and we'll continue to kind of work at that together and keep the kids engaged and doing what they need to do to help them learn a little more. And then bottom right, implementation. Increased implementation of technology will be used for now on. You had talked about, continuing to use Nearpod and any other kinds of cool technologies that we can find. There's so many things out there that we call Web 2.0 tools that are super useful, and they're good for EL students and differentiated learning, all kinds of different aspects as far as
Mhm.
teaching in the classroom and classroom management. So lots of really cool things out there that we can do together and introduce as we move forward.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. For our last criteria, number 5, you and I can look at making adaptations and plan next actions until your goal is met. How do you feel about making more adaptations for your lesson that you gave to the students?
Well, I mean, we did meet our goal, so that was good. I don't necessarily think we need to change anything in order to meet the goal, but
Mhm.
I mean, like I said, I've really enjoyed using Nearpod, and I'm excited to keep using it to see all the different things that you can do to
Yeah.
get students
Mhm.
engaged. Because, if you use the same, no matter how engaging it is, if you use the same things over and over again, then it just loses its appeal.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that Nearpod has so many different options, and always looking for ways to help my students learn.
Yeah, it'll be awesome, and we can continue to keep working, even though you were successful meeting that goal. We can keep looking at different things and keep trying new things and add in new technologies, like we discussed a little while ago. And there's so many cool things out there to use that most people don't even know about because they just
Mhm.
never have time to actually find them, really.
Yeah.
So that'll be awesome. All right. Looking back over our coaching session, I'd say we had a pretty successful implementation of the impact cycle. In the identify stage, you recognized, in our first video, we reflected on, your kids, you wanted to increase student engagement. We wanted to make sure and get everybody involved in the lesson so they could get as much out of it as they can in the time that you have, which is always important.
Hmm.
And then in the learn video, we talked about Nearpod. I got to model it to you. We got to build one. I
Hmm.
know you'd already tried it a little bit, so you really got your hands on it and got to know how to use the digital tool really well. And then for this one, we got to acknowledge that we hit your goal, which is awesome. That's what we're here for, and that's what we're working towards for these kids. And we raised the student engagement. In fact, we were basically sitting around 90% to 95%. They were all pretty regularly engaged throughout the lesson. They did a great job of participating. Everybody, answered the polls and the discussions and the quiz.
Hmm.
And overall, I think everything was pretty successful and went really well.
I would agree. Pretty happy.
Yeah, and you did a great job as my coachee, and I thank you so much for letting me uh, be your coach and walk you through this, because I also learned a lot of stuff, which is great. And I used Nearpod before as well, but getting to coach and collaborate with you has made it even that much better for both of us. So I really appreciate your time and thank you for everything. And we'll continue to work together and keep working on getting these kids engaged and staying focused.
All right. Well, thank you for your time as well.
Thank you.
Bye.